Well guys, I guess welcome back to the channel. Here's our dilemma. We arrived at our campground. We are 2 hours late because we weren't originally towing this. We were towing that. And then the alternator died on this. 2 hours into our 5.5 hour trip that took us 7.5 hours. So all said, not too bad. But I guess the next thing is to pull this into a friend's garage. We are 5.5 hours away from home, a little over 300 miles. Use the handful of tools I have here and swap out the alternator. I think I'm going to do it from the top. We'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, things couldn't have gone. I mean, they could have gone a lot worse. But here we go. All right, guys. So I made it at a friend's house, borrowing their garage, using the tools that I keep in the RV to work on the Mini. This is the Impact, really crappy Amazon Impact. The one tool I did buy, I went to AutoZone. I've been wanting one of these. This 3/8 long air ratchet or electric ratchet. That's gonna be great. So these Hyper Tougher have been great for me. This ratcheting drill ratchet driver. I just have the bit in there to fit the 3/8 because I didn't bring I do have a actual 3/8 ratchet. And then there's a new alternator, all $300 worth. The jack, and this is our cobalt kit. So I'm just gonna use it right here. Put it right on top of the. Oh man, oh, I forgot my light in the Jeep. They unloaded it for me and they did not remember my light. So I'm gonna be working here and hopefully not too much darkness. But I know you can take this out from the top because I've done it before. When I did the head gasket on this car, I did not take off the AC compressor. There's another video, I think No Nonsense Know How did a video of one of these, and he took the AC compressor out and pulled it from the bottom, obviously with a hoist, in about 30 minutes. I don't have that luxury. Also, I don't have a hoist and tools to recharge the AC. My daughter needs this car to drive back in a couple of days. So what I'm going to do is pull this core support off, or at least loosen it up and pull it forward. I'm going to pull the shroud off so I can see down there. I'm going to see what kind of light my buddy has so I can light up down here. And there's the alternator. What I may or may not do is pull this engine support bracket and support the engine with this jack and a block of wood underneath the oil pan, lift it a little bit to give me a little more access. That's a maybe. So I'll see if I can get to it with all this first. Time on deck is 17:39. All I have is my cell phone, so I won't be able to record all this. But this sensor here, I've replaced those, and then with the problems it had with the thing, I cleaned it. The bolts tripped out. So if I can't get it, if that is in the way, I'm gonna have to go to parts store and get something to extract that bolt. It's like a inverted star bit, and I think I might have some in here. And if it doesn't work, like I said, it's stripped out, I'm gonna need to get an extractor, pull it, and then replace that bolt. I've had bolts to the house, but I just didn't want to do it. So all right, let me get to it. I'll bring you back here in a few minutes. I've taken off a few things. This core support, not very hard to take off. Just kind of mounted behind here. There's a pin here and this here, another pin over there. So you gotta make sure to take these Torx bolts out for the hood latch. Pretty simple. And then I know there's some holders in here. I had some zip ties run through here, so I'll just zip tie it back together. It just worked better. But once it's popped out, it's kind of a little bit of a pain to get between these two piece parts here, but not a big deal. So what I did here, obviously you can see the heat shields off. This mounting bracket, it's pretty simple. 4 13mm bolts. Now working with this 3/8 drive 12-volt stuff, I did have to use the ratchet and wrench as kind of as a breaker bar, or yeah, wrench as a breaker bar. But we got it. So it's one 18mm bolt that goes in the middle on the actual engine mount, and then 4 13mm bolts go on the side. And there's another 13mm bolt that holds this. There's a bolt from the bottom and a nut on the top holds this grounding strap on. And then it slides out. So actually got quite a bit more room here. I can easily get to this either with a wrench or whatever else I'm going to get to, and loosen the belt, which doesn't seem like it's too big of a deal on this. And then we can, there's should be 2 bolts here, and 2 bolts here, and on the top, 2 bolts on the bottom. Then I should be able to start sliding that out. I will take the, I did already disconnect the battery, and then I will pull the plug and the hot wire off of it, and hopefully it slides right out. If not, I can loosen the exhaust manifold. I do have a U-joint in here, but I don't have a deep well 13, which is all it takes. I could do that if I need to, but I don't want to pull that apart. Like I did a head gasket on this not long ago. These valve covers, gaskets suck. Clearly this is leaking oil from the valve cover. Valve cover gaskets suck, but it's been apart, so this would come out pretty easy. So all right, I'm gonna loosen the belt. It does have this little spring-loaded pin here, so once you pull the tensioner, you pop this pin and it'll keep it loose. That's gonna be nice. And then, like I said, 2 bolts on the top, 2 on the bottom, and yeah, we'll see if I can knock this out right quick. All right, so the time on deck is 18:19. I just want my buddy to look in his basement for tools. Kind of at a standstill here. The problem is the bolts, the alternator bolts are inverted Torx. So they're like E30 or 25 or something like that. So I was able to use my Cobalt channel locks to easily loosen that belt tensioner and push this little spring-loaded nut in. So that was easy. But now everything's free except for the alternator bolts. So I just have to go buy some of those, or go buy the inverted Torx bolts, and get this thing out. All right, well, no project is safe from me. I got my light. That's great. These top 2 bolts right here actually came out quite easy. They are, I don't know if you can see those. They are the E, so inverted Torx, E10, because 10mm, why the heck not? Oh, and by the way, this hyper tough ratchet came with a shallow and a deep well 10mm, just thrown in there to say, hey, there you go. But I don't know if you can see it. The bottom bolt, difficult to see down there. But there is a coolant line right here at the end of the light. A little fuzzy, but it's at the end of the light there. The bolt lines up perfectly, you know, about a ½ an inch from the coolant line. So you cannot physically get the socket on there. I'm trying to remember. I know I pulled, it's a couple of 13mm, 3 or 4 13mm bolts for the AC compressor, which is what I'm going to do. Get it loose. I think that'll do what I need to do. But if you had that at home, I have the E10 socket, so the socket version of that, or not a socket, wrench. That would probably work. But even here, even now, the bolt will hit this pipe. So that's just what you need. Another tip: I have 2 of these little jacks. This one's with a block of wood holding up the on the oil pan. Our problem here is there's just no clearance underneath. So we'll get to it. All right, well, you might get a little flashy from my light, but so yeah, that coolant line down there was in the way. So there's 2 bolts on top and 1 bolt on the bottom of the AC compressor. The bolt over here on the AC compressor is also behind that stupid line. So the other 2 came out pretty easy. That one I was able to loosen with a wrench. open and wrench, and then back it up to it, and then move it, and then actually tilt the AC compressor. So wrap this wire, because it's all I had around this line, tilted it up as much as I could, and I was able to get the tool on and get that last bolt out. So once you get the bolt out, the bolts also hold on the tensioner, so the tensioner came right out, and now I'm going to try and fish out this alternator. So if it comes out, great. I'm just going to pull it straight up and out this way.
Girl.
Well, it's out. And the side-by-siding these, yeah, they match. The rear housing on the new one is a little bit smaller. Hopefully this is not there was like a 120 and 140 watt or something, so two different wattages of these, but this is the only one that was even available anywhere. So the bolt patterns match up, and obviously newer alternators don't necessarily need, this could be smaller and still be the same wattage. I don't know why this car would need any high watts, but yeah, when we take it back, we'll have them throw it on the tester and actually test it, just to make sure. But regardless, 150,000 miles or something coming up on it, it's time for a new one. But my wife had to help me actually push the engine back to get it past this. If you can get this sensor out, like I said, this bolt back here is hard to see, is stripped out. The Torx bolt, it's stripped, so it would be slightly easier with that, but even without it, it went in just fine. And I think with this smaller unit, back of the smaller unit, because that's where it was catching, will actually go in a little bit easier. So all right, we're gonna put it back together. Okay, well, I didn't record it, but we got the alternator down in there. I could go in there a little easier, and then I realized the nut for the wire was still on there, so I backed it off, and the washer was still on there. So I fought to get the washer off because I don't have a magnet, and it actually went down into this slot and into the casing of the alternator. So I pulled it back out. Lucky I was able to loosen these two screws up just enough so it actually slid out of that back of that casing, but that could have been bad. Yeah, I don't know why that coin slot is right next to that. So if you drop that washer in there, it's going to go right into that slot, and it did, and that could have caused catastrophe. So crisis averted. Now let's put this in here. All right, 13.6. Let me shut this thing off real quick. Yeah, so 12.7. So I had that, it said 13.6, so it was 10, almost 14 volts when it was running. When it died, when the light came on, we pulled it off the side of the road, it was at like 11, started 11.8, dropped down to 11.6 while I was sitting there. So this is our jump pack. I don't have a multimeter or my tester, so hey, in a pinch, if you got a jump pack and it's got a voltage reading, there you go. You can, if you're getting close to 14 volts, your alternator is good. So yeah, that was good. Things that kind of wrapping this video up, the things that really stood out, things that were necessary in a pinch. This cobalt, yeah, the cobalt tool set that sticks with my RV. I think the only thing in there that I used, I think I used all the sockets and everything besides the inverted Torx I used from inside of this kit. So this worked out really well. This Hyper Tough 3/8 drive extended ratchet from Walmart, 58 bucks. That was clutch. 20 bucks less and you can buy the short version. But these 12 volt batteries, now I have a whole set of these things. This one was awesome, especially getting down deep where the air conditioner was. And then this is just the drill driver impact. I do have the 3/8 impact, but I just use a 3/8 bit on there, and that worked great as well. So yeah, it worked out awesome. And again, the key here was taking off this radiator core support, and it's a couple of 13 millimeters there, a 10 millimeter here, a 10 millimeter here, mirror on the other side, one more 10 millimeter here. Well, not mirrored here. This is the coolant reservoir. So, but these two 13s, 10 and 10 mirrored on the other side, and then these are, I think, T25. I can't remember. but I actually have a bit for those. So those Torx bits for these. Then it basically, so all these body clips are garbage. So I took these off from when I did the head gasket and just put these two back on, but kind of lifted out of there. It wasn't the greatest fitment, but it fits pretty good. But yeah, so that's out there, and I got the green, I got the yellow ones. Hopefully my daughter enjoys the yellow ones. This valve cover is junk. I need to replace the gasket. Sorry, it's still leaking, even though this thing is basically brand new. It is down about 1.5 quarts of oil, so that was good. That was one thing. But okay, so back to this. Yeah, what came in clutch was 2 of these jacks, or if you got a different, my regular floor jack at home, it's the standard height, but if I take the big white base plate off, I can get it underneath and get it under there's a plastic pinch weld. Next to the pinch weld is a plastic jack point. If I lift it up there, I can get underneath it, and then you can slide the jack or whatever under here, and a block of wood under the oil pan, lift it up. That was key. That was absolute clutch. And then, you know, bring the light here so I can show you the this. Oh, that's probably gonna get, it'll be a little hot there, I think. This motor mount, so 18 millimeter there, and then 13, and then 2 more 13. So remember that there's a bolt from the bottom that sits in just a little casting, so that bolt will fall out. So you got to be careful for that ground strap. But these other long 12 millimeters are pretty good. You want to have the engine supported before you take those other 13 millimeters off. And getting this core support out and away, it's a little bit of a pain to kind of, you really got to muscle it out and over down here to get to these 2 bolts with a standard extension. Now I had to use, my 1/2 inch electric impact wasn't necessarily, well, I couldn't find until I literally finished this did I find the 1/2 inch step down to 3/8, but I don't have any 1/2 inch sockets, so I did have to use a breaker to get those loose, or just at least the ratchet. Again, continuing on, the heat shield, pretty easy. 3 10 millimeter bolts here, 2 10 millimeter bolts, 1 on each side. If you got a ratcheting wrench, you're gonna have to use a wrench to get to the one on this side. This one's a little tight. You can't get, unless you had a 1/4 inch. So if you had a 1/4 inch socket, you might be able to get to that one. This one over here you can get to, again, with the 3/8. And then the tensioner, I just use those Cobalt channel locks. Obviously that's 2 different brands. The Cobalt slip joint pliers. That turned that really nicely, and I was able to slide that spring-loaded catch there, and the 2 top bolts through the alternator actually hold the, so there's another dowel and just the hole on the back side of this tensioner. So the bolts for the alternator actually hold that tensioner on there. So when you pull it off, that'll do that. But then again, those were E10s, so the inverted Torx. And then 3 more 13 millimeter bolts down on the AC compressor. Again, I had to take the front and the bottom one out. I didn't have to pull them all the way out, just out. And then the back one I could only get to because it is hard to see. I think maybe you can see it right there. Right there. It is behind that. It's nestled behind its own aluminum hose, so pipe. So you can't get it out. You could loosen it and keep pulling it out and loosen until it fell out, but it's going to hit that. You're going to have to take off that AC pipe to get that bolt out. So I didn't have to do that. I just loosened it up enough to pull it slightly out, and then again we got we used the hanger, but you could use something else to get right along that pipe right there, lift it up so it tilts, and then you can get underneath and get that last E10 on that alternator, and then it snakes out of there. But you're gonna need to push. If you can use another that Torx, it's the same Torx here that holds this sensor on. It's what, this cam variable valve, whatever. You slide that out, you'll have a little bit of an easier time. But since mine's stripped, I left it in there. You're still, I think, pushing this engine back a little bit is going to give you what you need. So we were able to push the engine back with that motor mount out, and we got it right out. So that was well, my phone says 7 minutes, so 7 minute down and dirty of what we did here. And I'll I'll fix that, and everything else is all set and put back together, and we'll pull this out of here and see how she runs. But she should be all set and ready to go and get down the road again. So yeah, thanks a lot for sticking around this long. Like and subscribe if you hate this Mini Cooper as much as I do. There was a hybrid Prius that we almost bought, but it was red. My wife didn't like it. I was in Japan, and we saw these two cars were local. And we went with the Mini because I thought the Mini was better. But you know, an alternator is an alternator. The hose problem in the head gasket, I guess that's our fault. But yeah, otherwise it's a decent car. So hopefully the weird electrical bug, I can finally figure that out, and the CAN bus, like 30 or 80 codes, however, there's a ridiculous amount of codes in here for that CAN bus, and there's got to be a wiring problem somewhere or a grounding problem somewhere. And I've looked, I've spent a good amount of time, haven't been able to find it yet. So one day. But again, yeah, this thing's made a bunch of trips back and forth, 5.5 hours for my daughter to college and back. So it's about to make another one here in a couple of days. So thanks again, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.